to try to catch up to you. So we're picking up with the chapter, the passage of the marshes. And I want to jump to page 625. The chapter begins on 620. So they make their way a little way, and they come to the beginning of what are called the Dead Marshes. And on page 625, just beyond midway, about, 3/4 of the way through, we're told, actually midway, we're told the hobbits were now wholly in the hands of Gollum. They did not know, could not guess in that misty night that they were in fact only just within the northern borders of the marshes, the main expanse of which, and then we get a description of what these northern borders are, okay, or what these marshes are, okay. This was the field of ancient battle before the gates of Mordor. That ancient battle, that was that ancient battle that Elrond was a herald on. This is the last alliance of elves and men against Sauron about 3,000 years earlier, if I remember correctly the timeline. Okay? So it's called the Dead Marshes. This is where a lot of men died in that battle, men and elves and such. So, Frodo asks Gollum, how do we shape our course now, Smeagol? Must we cross these evil-smelling fens? How do we shape our course? Course meaning path, journey, okay? The only reason I'm emphasizing this is because Frodo and Sam are, over the next several chapters, kind of going to keep coming back to this notion, okay, of making one's way in the world, making one's path. That is, that one's path isn't laid out for them. Go back for a moment to the end of the Council of Elrond. They finally decide, ring's got to be destroyed. Any takers? Who wants to take the ring to Mount Doom? And everybody starts, looking at their phones because they've got other busy stuff to do. And after a while, Frodo says, I will take the ring, though I do not know the way. Though I do not know the way means this. I don't know the very next step to take. What do I do from this point on? Okay? So, do we have to cross these fens? Now, we don't really have fens in Middle Tennessee. Go down to southern Georgia, go down to parts of Florida where there are swamps. Go to the Okefenokee kind of a thing. Take that back. There are some fens, Go by low-lying areas after we get a lot of rain for a while and the water builds up, and then after a few days it starts to subside and it starts to smell really bad. That's what he's talking about. And these are fens with, midges and mosquitoes and everything. And as we talked about the other day, they're going to see faces in the puddles. Gollum says, no need. We don't have to go through here. Not if hobbits want to reach the Dark Mountains and go to see him very quick. Notice, if you want an immediate audience with Sauron, no, there's a better way we can go. But if you don't want to meet with him, this is the way you got to go. So, how do we shape our course? It's not an easy path. So, Gollum says, I know other ways, etc., etc., and they start making their way on. Page 627. Sam notices there's lights in the water. Some people have suggested, oh yeah, swamp gas, natural explanation. Okay? They're all around us now. Sam's kind of like, we're trapped. Whatever these light things are. And Gollum says, Yes, they are around us. The tricksy lights, candles of corpses. Yes, yes. Don't you heed them? No, don't look, don't follow them. Where's the master? Who's the master? The master of the ring. Where's Frodo? And there's Frodo, lagging behind him. Frodo runs off. Sam runs off to him and says, "Come on, Mr. Frodo." Okay. And Sam turns and hurries forward and trips. Bottom of 627. And there was a faint hiss, a noisome smell went up. The lights flickered and danced and swirled. For a moment, the water below him looked like some window, glazed with grimy glass, through which he was peering. Two images here. One, this is a reflection of the Mirror of Galadriel. Remember, in that scene, she gets water in a basin. Okay, it's lit by the Star of Eärendil, and when you initially look at it, it just looks like water in a basin. But you look at any water in a basin, and what does that water do? It reflects. Okay? Frodo and Sam both look at it. Frodo looks in, he sees Sauron's eye, he gets closer and closer. She says, "Don't disturb the water." Okay? That's one image. We'll get to the other one in just a moment. The water looked like some window glazed with grimy glass through which he was peering. In the essay on fairy stories, Tolkien talks about the need for recovery. Why do we need to learn to see better? It's because it's like our glasses are covered with grime. Okay? The same image right here. And what happens? Wrenching his hands out of the bog, he springs back. Because what did Sam see? There's dead things. There's dead faces in there. Dead faces. Gollum, the Dead Marshes, yes, yes. That is their name. You should not look in when the candle. Who are they? Frodo, I don't know. Notice, Frodo answers, not Gollum. But I have seen them too in the pools when the candles were lit. I don't know who they are, but I thought I saw their men and elves and orcs. Gollum, yes, yes, all dead, all rotten. Elves and men and orcs, the Dead Marshes. There was a great battle long ago, yes. Somebody told him Smeagol was young, when I was young before the precious game. Great battle, tall men, long swords, Númenóreans. Terrible elves, orcs is shrieking. They fought on the plain for days and months, etc., etc. Well, what is one of the things that happened as a result of that battle? Elendil dies. His sword is broken. He cuts the ring off Sauron's finger. Isildur takes the ring. Later on, in a raid against orcs, he crosses the Anduin. The ring slips off his finger. They turn him into a pincushion of arrows. The ring stays in the river. Time goes on, and one day, a hobbit-like creature and his friend, Smeagol and Diagal, are out fishing. Diagal finds the ring. Smeagol says, "It's my birthday, precious," and kills him for it. And we're back up to here. Okay? So, they make their way through the Dead Marshes. Takes them 5 days since they hooked up with Gollum, so to speak. And bottom of 632, they've gone beyond the marshes. They're now in kind of the slag pits and heaps of earth vomit, if you want, outside Mordor. And they've stopped at the top of one and spent the night. And Sam wakes up, bottom of that page, thinking he hears Frodo calling. But Frodo hadn't called. He'd fallen asleep. He'd slid down to the bottom of the pit. And there's Gollum beside him. And Sam thinks Gollum's trying to wake Frodo up, and he realizes he's not. He looks at Gollum, and he notices when Gollum speaks, his eyes alternate colors. A pale light and a green light. The pale light is associated with the first thought. Smeagol promised. Yes, yes, my precious, came the answer, and the eyes go green. We promised to save our precious, not to let him have it never, but it's going to him, yes, near every step. What's the Hobbit going to do with it? We wonder, yes, I don't know. I can't. Notice, we, Gollum, split personality kind of thing. Who's the we? It's not Gollum and Smeagol. It's Gollum and the ring. Okay. When you hear the I, when Smeagol says Smeagol, what is that? That is the little teeny tiny bit of Smeagol's psyche that still retains doing what? Fighting to come back, fighting to regain control. I can't help it. Master's got it. Smeagol promised to help the master. Notice, by the way, what that tells us about Smeagol and promises. He wants to keep them. He doesn't like to break them. Okay, now this promise is also, has a little bit more than just, I promise. It's a promise on the ring. And what did he promise? To serve the master of the ring, or if he doesn't, he will be destroyed. Okay? So, yes, to help the master of the precious. But if we was master, then we could help ourselves, yes. Smeagol said he would be very, very good. Nice Hobbit. He took cruel rope off Smeagol's. Yes, very good, nice, isn't he, etc., etc. And what do we hear? But not the nice Hobbit. That is, we're not going to do anything to the nice Hobbit, right? No, not if it doesn't please us. Still, he's a Baggins, my precious. Yes, a Baggins. That is. What kind of culture is Gollum kind of showing us here? This is an honor culture. If your enemy dies, but has a son, guess what? That son becomes your enemy too. If your enemy does something wrong against you, and your enemy's out of the picture, but your enemy's son or heir is in the picture, that son or heir is your enemy. Okay? Not this Baggins. Yes, every Baggins. All people's. Okay. And now Gollum just kind of, anybody who keeps the precious from us, they're an enemy. Okay? And then what happens? She might help. Bottom of the page. She might. Yes. No, not that way. Yes, we want it. We want it. And each time the second thought, Gollum, spoke, his hand reaches out towards Frodo. And every time Smeagol, the hand pulls back. And Sam's sitting there going, I wonder what this means. Okay? Finally, he wakes Frodo and Gollum up. Okay? So, they go on. Chapter 3, the Black Gate is closed. Where does Gollum take them? Before that, what's the Black Gate? Yeah, it's the entrance to Mordor. Think of it as Ellis Island in the 1890s. You want to immigrate to America, you come through Ellis Island, kind of a thing. So, he takes them to the Black Gate, and they're like, we can't go in there, page 637. Sam, here's the gate. Looks to me it's about as far as we're ever going to get. Okay? So, he says, I suppose it's no good asking, what do we do now? What way do we go now? Can't go no further, unless we ask the orcs for a lift. Gollum, no, can't go no further. Smeagol said so. Told you. I told you this is what you'd see. Sam, what the plague did you bring us here for? What? Because you told me to. Notice Gollum's following kind of the command to the letter. Okay, Frodo says, you're right, I did. because this is the only way I knew. I don't ask anyone to come with me. That is, thank you, Sam. I got to go in by myself. Gollum, you're released. I don't know any other way. Gollum, no, you can't go that way. Oh, so do you know another way, Gollum? Yes, indeed. Middle of 638. There was another way. Smeagol found it. Let's go and see if it's still there. You didn't talk about this before. You didn't ask, etc., etc. Okay? Sam frowned. Why? Possibly. Why else? What did Sam do when Aragorn said, Strider said, I'm Aragorn, I will help you? How do we know you're the real Strider? How do we know you're not just some play actor who did off the real Strider, put on his clothes and... In other words, Sam's really protective of Frodo. He's gonna second guess everybody. Okay? So they keep talking, and Frodo says, 640, I'm going to trust you again, Smeagol. It seems I must do so. Twice now we've been in your power, twice you've done no harm to us. Okay. Gollum says, yes, must help, nice master. And he goes, I'm not talking about that. There's a danger to yourself alone. Right in the middle of 640. You swore a promise by what you call the precious. Remember that. It will hold you to it, but it will seek a way to twist it to your own undoing. Already you are being twisted. You just revealed yourself to me. You said, give it back to Smeagol. Don't say that again. Do not let that thought grow in you. You will never get it back. Okay? In the last need, Smeagol, I should put on the precious, and the precious mastered you long ago. If I wearing it were to command you, you would obey, even if it were to leap from a precipice or to cast yourself into a fire. Foreshadowing. And such would be my command. Sam looks up and is like, way to go, mister, for you tell the little. So he says, okay, lead on, Gollum. So Gollum talks about an old fortress, and they go on their way. Page 643. Gollum talks about a path that he's found, and we're told, when Frodo asks, isn't it guarded? He says, that's what Aragorn thought, who found you by the Dead Marshes. It's a lie. He lied on me. Yes, he did. Precious was ours. It was mine, I tell you. And we're told the middle of the next paragraph. Frodo notes something, as Sam noted earlier while Frodo was asleep. He noted that Gollum used I. Okay. Sam noted that Gollum used I, and the eyes are pale. When Gollum used we, the eyes kind of glinted green. Frodo notices that when Gollum uses I, that's a sign on its rare appearances that some remnants of old truth and sincerity were for the moment on top. When Gollum says I, that's the real Smeagol, if you want. Okay? In control. So he says, is this way guarded? Yes, perhaps. Okay? And he won't say anything more. So, they go on. Page 644, we're told what this place is. It's Cirith Ungol, blah, 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 blah. And we're told Frodo doesn't know what he should do. He sits on the ground for a long while, head bowed, striving to recall everything Gandalf had told him, but he couldn't recall any counsel. Indeed, Gandalf died much too soon. And Frodo's left with, this was an evil choice. Which way should he choose? And if both led to terror and death, what good lay in choice? should I follow Gollum or should I go through the Black Gate? If they both end up, one, in my being scared, you know what less, and two, my dying, what good lay in choice? What does it matter? Why not just walk up to the Black Gate, knock on the door, and go, here, take it. You can't, I mean, you got to take it. I can't give it to you. Why can't he? Even at this point.
He's attached to it.
It's already got too much control of him. Okay? So, they go on. They know when black riders are in the air. Okay? We go on to chapter 4 of Herbs and Stewed Rabbit. They make their way south. They're now in the land of Ithilien. They find a place to kind of bunk for the night, and Sam notices Frodo's really thin. Now, what was Frodo like at the beginning of the journey? He's a bit fat, a little round around the edges. Okay? Now, it's like light shines through him. So, Sam tells Gollum, third time's a charm, go hunting. Catch a brace of conies, a couple of rabbits. He's going to make Frodo a stew. Only problem is, as I said that one day when I talked about, the Cauldron of Story stuff, what do you have to do to make stew? You got to heat it. You have to have fire. What are they trying to do? Not be detected. You create a fire out in the woods, even if it's grassland. What does fire always produce?
Smoke.
Smoke. Okay? So, Gollum comes back with the brace of conies. Sam gets the stew ready. Frodo eats it. He's happy, and they get captured. Page 657. There's 4 tall men standing there. One says, what are these things? Not orcs. Okay. When he sees the glitter of sting in Frodo's hand. Elves? Fourth one says, nope, not elves. Notice the tallest appeared to be the chief among them. He says, elves don't walk in Ithilien, and elves are wondrous fair to look on. Sam, meaning we're not, I take you. He goes, I understand. Okay. So the tall man tells them who he is, Faramir, captain of Gondor. Frodo says, we are travelers, we are not servants of the Dark Tower, and we're not servants of the White Tower. Okay. They ask who the third is. Frodo says he kind of works with me. And Frodo kind of noticed very kind of around the edges asks, 658. So you know about that riddle Boromir went to Rivendell to seek about? He says, yes, they are. Aragorn, whom I named, is the bearer of the sword that was broken. Now, that's code language. What does it mean? You have to have the key to the code. You have to understand what the sword that was broken was. Okay? That was Elendil's sword. Who can wield Elendil's reforged sword?
Elendil's heir.
Only a direct descendant of Elendil. Aragorn has the sword that was broken. Aragorn is the future king. We're halflings. He goes, yeah, I kind of figured that. Isildur's Bane? Can't talk about that. So, Faramir says, we got some stuff to do. I'm not going to press you about this right now. And what do we see? We see a battle of men. We see the Rangers of Ithilien fight the enemy. Top of 661. Sam gets his first view of battle. And he did not like it much. I would say, kind of unlike Peter Jackson. Just notice there is no glory in this little description. He wondered what the man's name was and where he came from. Okay? And if he was really evil of heart, or what lies or threats had led him on the long march from his home. And if he would not really rather have stayed there in peace, all in a flash of thought. Because what is he seeing? He sees a man fall, crashing through the slender trees, nearly on top of him. He came to rest in the fern a few feet away, face downward, green arrow feathers sticking from his neck below a golden collar. Scarlet robes were tattered, corselet of overlapping bronze plates, rent and hewn, black plates of hair braided with gold, drenched with blood, and his hand still clutched the hilt of his sword. The fact that we get the description of this guy's armor, and it's all beaten and battered, that tells us this isn't his first battle. He's been around. And Sam immediately thinks all these thoughts. What did Frodo think about Gollum after Gandalf's conversation with him? He is just an enemy and deserves death. What are Sam's thoughts about this guy? Is he really an enemy? Is he really evil at heart? Or was he lied to by his leaders at home? Or what threats had they put on him? Well, what kind of threats can somebody put on you to make you do something?
Killing someone you care about?
I'm going to harm your family. After all, what is one of the reasons, at least, Frodo says, he takes the ring from the Shire? To protect the Shire. He tells Gandalf. And Gandalf's like, whoa, Frodo, man, you just blew me away. Never expected that answer from you, you know. And then they see elephants. So we get chapter 5, The Window on the West. Page 664. They're talking about Aragorn, the Sword of Elendil, etc., etc. And Faramir's like, you know, maybe he was who he says he was. I'm not sure. He hadn't arrived at Minas Tirith when I left 6 days ago. Frodo, Boromir was satisfied with that claim. I mean, if Boromir were here, he'd answer all your questions. Since he was at Ralros many days back, tended then to go, maybe if you go back, you'll see Boromir. Okay? He knew what my business was. He goes, oh, okay. So you tell me to mind my own business and let you be, and Boromir will tell all when he comes. So you were a friend of Boromir? Yeah, for my part. Then you would grieve to learn that he's dead. I would grieve indeed. And then suddenly he realizes Boromir's dead. And what's Frodo's immediate second thought? If Boromir's dead, they're all dead. If Boromir died, then his friends, Merry and Pippin, have got to be dead. And it's more than likely Legolas, Gimli, and Aragorn are also dead.
And he doesn't know that Gandalf's back either.
And he doesn't know that Gandalf's back. Okay? So now you've been tricking me? He says, nope, I wouldn't even trick an orc with a falsehood. This tells us, just that one sentence, tells us everything we need to know about Faramir's character. He wouldn't lie to an orc. Okay? Well, then how did Boromir die? He goes, I thought you would tell me. I mean, you're supposed to be his friend. Okay? So, Sam's, meanwhile, sitting there, listening to all this, and he's had enough. He stands up, all 3 feet of him, and goes by Frodo's side. Begging your pardon, Mr. Frodo, but this has gone on long enough. He's got no right to talk to you so. After all you've gone through, and then he says to Faramir, he goes, plants himself in front of Faramir. See here, Captain. What are you driving at? Let's come to a point before all the orcs of Mordor come down on us. If you think my master murdered this Boromir, then ran away, you've got no sense. Patience. Boromir says, patience. In other words, shut up. Frodo's got more brains than you do. Shh, just. Okay. Sam sits down, and then Faramir says, Boromir was my brother. Do you remember Otto's special mark? And Frodo and Sam remember the horn. He says, yep. Okay. 5 days before I set out on this venture, 11 days ago, at about this hour of the day, I heard the blowing of that horn. 11 days ago. That's when Frodo and Sam left. Boromir blows his horn as Frodo and Sam are on the river and getting away. Not where Boromir can see them. They're already out of view, so to speak. Okay? And what happens? He says on the third night after that, he had another dream. He sat at night by the waters of Anduin, and maybe it wasn't a dream. A boat comes up, and there's Boromir. Broken sword on his knee, many wounds. The horn. Fair belt. Where did he get the belt from? Boromir didn't leave with that belt. He got in Lothlorien. Frodo. Yep, that was Boromir. He got the belt. He tells him where. Okay. So they continue talking. Frodo says, I can't tell you any more than I've already seen. Faramir's like, no, it's okay. It's okay. For right now. So, bottom of 667. Faramir says, you passed through the hidden land, but it seems that you little understood its power. If men have dealings with the mistress of magic who dwells in the Golden Wood, then they may look for strange things to follow. For it is perilous for mortal man to walk out of the world of this sun, and few of old came thence unchanged. What does that mean? Walk out of this, the world of this sun. Is Lothlorien not in the world of this sun? Or is it kind of like a paradise? Where when you were in Lothlorien, it's kind of like you were in Valinor, the other world, so to speak. Okay? He goes, I know, you can't answer my questions, etc., etc. So, 668. Frodo says, will you not put aside your doubt of me and let me go? I'm weary, I'm full of grief, and I'm afraid. But I have a deed to do or to attempt before I too am slain. In the more need of haste, if we two halflings are all that remain of our fellowship. In other words, our goal, our whole purpose, we're screwed. But I gotta try. Go back, Faramir, valiant captain of Gondor, defend your city while you may, and let me go where my doom takes me. Where my doom. Whatever happened to the language of shaping our course? Okay. What's happened to Frodo's mindset?
He's beginning to think that it's hopeless.
Yeah. I mean, this is the beginnings of despair here. Okay. Faramir says, no, I don't think all you people are dead. Some of your company, I guess, still live. How? On what basis does he make that judgment?
Someone had to send
Well,
Boromir.
we put Boromir in a boat. Orcs didn't do that. They don't have any, honor among enemies kind of a mentality. So, he says, you guys are going to come with me. And page 669. He starts talking to them again, says, I broke off our speech. Why? Because I think something came between you. And I think it was Isildur's bane. You were not wholly frank with me, Frodo. I told no lies, and I spoke all I could of the truth. Look, no, I don't blame you. You spoke with skill in a hard place and wisely, it seemed to me, but I learned or guessed more from you than your words said. You were not friendly, or at least you didn't part in friendship. Okay? I would hazard Isildur's bane lay between you. Am I close? Frodo, close. Not a bullseye, but you're getting there. Okay? So, they keep talking, and Frodo says Boromir always treated Aragorn with respect. And then Frodo mentions Gandalf. Because, or Faramir mentions the Grey Pilgrim. Frodo's like, Grey Pilgrim. Did he have a name? Mithrandir, he says. And he quotes, many are my names in many countries. Mithrandir among the elves, Tharkun to the dwarves, Olorin I was in my youth, in the west that is forgotten. Okay? In the south, Incarnus, in the north, Gandalf, to the east I go not. Well, what is the west that is forgotten?
The realm of the gods.
Valinor. Okay? Frodo, yeah, he's dead. He's like, no, he can't be dead. Okay? They keep talking. 671. Faramir realizes whatever this thing is, it's dangerous. And he says, what in truth this thing is, I cannot yet guess, but some heirloom of power and peril it must be, a fell weapon perchance devised by the Dark Lord. If it were a thing that gave advantage in battle, I can well believe Boromir, the proud and fearless, often rash, ever anxious for the victory of Minas Tirith, and his own glory therein. Notice, his desire for the victory of Minas Tirith is not selfless. He wants his own glory too. Why is that important? Because Tolkien wants us to question this idea of glory. Self-glory. Okay? He says he would have wanted it. Alas, that he was chosen to go on that errand. Well, why was Boromir chosen to go on the errand? The dream with the poem didn't come to Boromir first. It came to Faramir. But Daddy said, eldest brother goes. Fear no more, he says. I would not take this thing if it lay by the highway. Not were Minas Tirith falling in ruin, and I alone could save her. So, that is thus, using the weapon of the Dark Lord for her good and my glory. He would not pick it up if, with it, he could save his country and achieve some glory for himself. What does that tell us about Faramir? He's not interested in glory for himself. What else? What's he saying about the ring?
It's evil.
Keep going. It's obviously evil. Because it's evil, it what?
Would manipulate him.
Okay. If it's evil, then everything produced from it is also evil. It cannot be used ultimately for good. For every bit of good produced by it will ultimately what? Turn into evil. In other words, Gondor is supposed to be the bulwark of the West. If Gondor is saved by the power of the ring, what will Gondor ultimately become? A new Mordor. Okay? I do not wish for such triumphs, Frodo, son of Drogo. Frodo, neither did the council, nor do I. I don't want anything to do with this thing. But he said, I'll take the ring. Okay? Faramir says what he'd like to see, etc., etc. They go on. We're going to skip a bunch. in Sam, page 680, they're talking about Galadriel. Faramir says she must be perilously fair. Sam, I don't know about perilous, and blah, 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 blah. Now, Boromir, you were going to say. Now, Boromir, you were about to say. He says, yes, sir, begging your pardon. Fly man as your brother was, if I may say so, but you've been warm on the head. He wanted the enemy's ring. And Frodo's like, Sam, it's on the Ingray, we don't talk about. Sam pulls out his sword. He goes back to back with Frodo and says, all right, Mr. Faramir, show me what kind of person you are. 681. Alas for Boromir, it was too sore a trial. See, before when he said, if I walked by this thing, the enemy's weapon, I would not stoop on the ground to pick it up. Talking how?
Metaphorically?
Metaphorically. That's in theory. Now what does he discover? It's not just metaphorically near him. Frodo has the one ring of power. Now it's praxis. It's bring that theory and have it lived out in life. He says, you are less judges of men than I of halflings. You're not a very good judge of character. I am. We are truth speakers, we men of Gondor. Well, that includes Boromir. We boast seldom and then perform or die in the attempt. There's, in Old English poetry, several Old English poems have this little aphorism. Don't make a boast until you know what your heart will do when it's time to fulfill the boast. Don't say, I'm going to go kill X monster or Monster X until you see Monster X. Because you might see Monster X and go, no, that's too big. I can't take that on. Not if I found it on the highway would I take it, I said. In other words, I am bound by that oath. Did Boromir ever swear an oath not to take the ring?
Mm-hmm.
No, he didn't. Should they have had such an oath-swearing ceremony at the end of the Council of Elrond?
Probably.
Might have been a good idea. Okay? Probably Tolkien considered it and thought, no, because it'll detract from what's going to happen later on. Even if I were such a man as to desire this thing. Notice, if I were such a man. Okay? It means I'm not. I don't want this thing.
If he didn't desire, then how come it's still mentioned about how his eyes glinted when you started to talk about it, at the top of the page? Because it said he stood up and his gray eyes were glinting.
He stood up very tall and stern, his gray eyes glinting. Well, because that's the temptation part. He's speaking there, go back to the beginning of that. So that's it. That's the answer to all the riddles. The one ring that was thought to have perished, Boromir tried to take it by force, and you escaped. You ran all the way, and I've got you. Okay? Some of that, I think, in a sense, that's the ring working its force on Faramir. And now, the Ring of Rings, a pretty stroke of fortune, a chance for Faramir, captain of Gondor, to show his quality. He stood up tall and stern, gray eyes glinting. That's when they jump back to back. Alas for Boromir. The alas for Boromir, even though we're not told right there, that glint probably goes away. All right? Because he didn't have the desire, but the ring is trying to instill that desire. And even though I knew not clearly what this thing was when I spoke, still I should take those words as a vow and be held by them. What does Peter Jackson do with Faramir? totally flips his character. He makes him into a mirror image of Boromir. Once he finds out what it is, I got to take it to Papa. Which is exactly what we are going to see later on his father wanted him to do. In fact, it's why his father essentially tells him, go get killed in the Battle of the Pelennor Fields. Why? Because you didn't bring me the ruling ring of power. It's almost like Peter Jackson completely misunderstood. And from everything I've read, Christopher Lee, who played Saruman in the film, really argued with him, don't do this. Because Christopher Lee knew Tolkien, was friends with Tolkien, reads Lord of the Rings every year. And he's like 80. Okay? And said, don't do this to the character. But he didn't get final say. Yes?
I know Tolkien actually mentioned that he envisioned Christopher Lee as Gandalf.
Really? I never heard that.
Well, I heard, well, apparently he auditioned for that at first, but because there was more physical stuff Gandalf was doing, he had to set up his arm.
Well, that, and there were, Ian McKellen was like fifth choice. The guy who finally got, and then died shortly thereafter, got the role of Dumbledore. I'm trying to blank on his name. Who played Dumbledore in the first Harry Potter film, and then died. He was up for Gandalf first. He was like number 1 or 2. And I think Lee was up there as well, but it went to Ian McKellen instead. But again, McKellen was like fifth choice. Okay? Because they're shooting both films, this and the first Harry Potter film at the same time. And so lots of similar roles. I mean, wizards, magicians, etc., etc. Okay, so chapter 6, Forbidden Pool. They capture Gollum. He looks in Gollum's eyes, says, I wouldn't trust him. Gollum says where they're going to go. Kind of. Faramir says, I wouldn't go that way. And we get the chapter Journey to the Crossroads. I'm trying to do this really, really quickly. So they get to the crossroads. And the crossroads are exactly what they sound like. Okay? Over on this side, Mordor, way over here, the sea. Gondor is north up here. Ithilien, they're still in, is kind of this whole area. And Far Harad is way down here in the south. So they get to the crossroads. And on a corner of the crossroads, okay, they see a fallen or knocked over statue, page 702. This isn't hugely significant, but I'm going to spend a couple minutes on it because it's a little example of Tolkien's throwing in many M-I-N-I eucatastrophes. Okay? So they stand there, and Frodo's aware that a light is shining. He sees it glowing on Sam's face. He turns toward it, and he sees beyond an arch of boughs the road to Osgiliath running almost down to the west, and there, far, far away, sad, way beyond Gondor, there's what? The sun is setting into the ocean. And so it's sending its rays, its final rays of sunlight, directly down. And the glow falls upon a huge sitting figure, still and solemn as the great stone king of Argonath. So there's this sitting figure, and the head's been knocked off. The head's on the ground. The head had graffiti put on it and stuff. And Frodo says, look, Sam. Look, the king has got a crown again. Because there's a ivy of some sort that has woven itself around the king's head, and the ivy has small flowers that look like white stars. And the sun, boom, hits it right at that moment. Look, the king has got a crown again. It's foreshadowing. What else does it mean? Not all is dark. There is still, it might only be a little teeny tiny bit, but there's still 1% chance. And Frodo says, they cannot conquer forever. The sun dips, and what are we told? It's black night. Cirith of Ungol. So they start the way up the stairs of Cirith Ungol. And page 711, they take a pause. 6 minutes. I think I can do this passage. We won't get to Shelob's lair. Not today. We'll finish Two Towers. Finish Two Towers? No. We still have second half. No, we're on the second half. We'll probably finish Two Towers on Friday. So, page 711. They're taking a break. And they're talking about where they are. And they're like, I don't like this place at all. If there were water, they wouldn't drink from it, etc. And Frodo says, I don't like anything here at all. Step or stone, breath or bone, earth, air, and water all seem accursed. But so our path is laid. Notice, there's no shaping their path here. It's like, this is what doom, destiny, says we must do. Okay? And Sam kind of takes that and says, yes, that's so. And we shouldn't be here at all if we'd known more about it before we started. Mr. Frodo, if we go back to the previous year, summer, okay, we never would have stepped foot out your front door if we knew it was actually going to mean being here. Where were they supposed to go to?
Rivendell.
Make your way to Rivendell. Okay? Then something would be decided about the ring. Sam's saying, I didn't bargain for this. Okay? But I suppose it's often that way. The brave things in the old tales and songs, Mr. Frodo. Adventures, as I used to call them. I always drop into my cockney. I used to think they were the things the wonderful folk of the stories looked for. Because they wanted them, because they were exciting and life was a bit dull. Kind of a sport, as you might say. But that's not the way of it. With the tales that really mattered, or the ones that stay in the mind, folk seem to have been just landed in them usually. Their paths were laid that way, as you put it. But I expect they had lots of chances like us of turning back, only they didn't. So who's he talking about? What kind of stories? What kind of tales? In our world, not Middle-earth. Heroic tales. Jason and the Argonauts, Beowulf, King Arthur, all those guys. Okay? We hear about those as just went on, and not all to a good end, mind you. Beowulf doesn't go on to a quote-unquote good end. Why? Because he dies. For most people, that's not a good end. Okay? Or at least, he says, not to what folk inside a story, not outside it, call a good end. That is, if you're the one dying to save your kingdom, if you're within the story, that's not necessarily the best end. You'd want it to end how?
Surviving and saving the kingdom.
And they all lived happily ever after. You know, Sam goes on to describe what this good end is. Coming home, finding things all right, though not quite the same, like old Mr. Bilbo. And we could go from here to the very last page and the very last paragraph. And Sam shows up at home, and he says, well, I'm back. His adventure's over. He gets the girl, he gets the family, he becomes mayor of Hobbiton, something like 11 times in a row. And we could go through and read the appendices, and what ultimately happens, he goes off to Valinor. Okay? That's the quote-unquote good ending of a story. But, Sam says, those aren't always the best tales to hear. Though they may be the best tales to get landed into. Those are the kind you want to get landed into and have happen to you, where they all lived happily ever after. I wonder what sort of a tale we've fallen into. Why does he ask that question? Because they're right smack dab in the middle of it. He doesn't know how it's going to end. Frodo, I wonder, but I don't know. And that's the way of a real tale. Take anyone you're fond of. You may know or guess what kind of a tale it is, happy ending, sad ending, but the people in it don't. And you don't want them to. Why not? Because if they come to know it's going to be a sad ending, what might they do? Typical rational process. Don't do it. That is, I'm going to change this from happening. Read the ancient Greek play, Oedipus the King. Oedipus hears a prophecy. You are fated to kill your father, sleep with your mother. Like hell. And what does he do? He runs away from home. What's the one little bit of information he didn't have prior to the prophecy? He was adopted. His real parents are still alive. And so he runs away from home and he kills a man. And then he goes to that man's kingdom and marries the woman who's the queen, who turns out to be his mother. In other words, by the very fact of trying to stop the path from happening, he fulfills it. Okay, we'll stop there and we'll pick up with page 712. And I really am going to try and get us into Return of the King some on Friday, because we're so far behind.